All right, so today we are going to be talking about networking. Maybe you know what networking is, maybe you have a faint idea of what it is, but I'd like a couple of you to say, tell me what you think networking is all about. Reagan, thanks for volunteering.
I can't hear you. My sister is screaming in the other room.
Oh, I could tell that.
I think it's like being able to reach out to people of authority or people in certain positions
Okay.
that you might not right now have access to.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Nora, can I put you on the spot? What do you think networking is all about?
I kind of agree with Reagan, just like reaching out to people, like getting to know people, just like using your resources well.
Okay. Let me add one element to this question. What do you think the purpose of networking is? Stephen?
So you can get more opportunities in the future.
To get more opportunities. All right. Let's get another answer from someone. And oh, it looks like I'm out of people here. Carly, what is the purpose of networking?
To find job opportunities, maybe.
To find job opportunities. All right. So I thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'm assuming all of you have some idea of what you think networking is. And maybe you don't, and that's okay. That's why you take a class and we talk about this to learn this. As I notice, maybe you notice at the bottom of the screen here, networking is the other way to get a job. But there are other purposes to networking other than just getting a job, as we will soon find out. So let's go to the next slide here. First thing I want to say about networking is sometimes it's not what you know, but I think you can fill in the blank here. It is who you know. Now, before you get all excited and you start thinking about, oh, I know what networking is. Networking is having an uncle in the business and you get a job. Well, yes, that's partially true. That's part of what networking is. But I really want to get away from that and take it a step further. So maybe you have a better understanding of what the power of networking is. Most jobs, and it depends on where you're getting your research from, but 60 to 80% of most jobs are received or a result of networking, which makes networking really, really, really important. And again, it's not just because you know somebody means you get the job. I want to be very clear about that. Knowing someone will help get you the job, but ultimately it's your responsibility to win someone over. Just because, I mean, we've seen, countless movie plots where, the son or the nephew or the daughter, to, the person who built this huge empire of a business, they don't know the first thing about running a business. And the dad doesn't want to give it to them because they know it's just going to go into shambles. And just because you know someone doesn't mean automatically make you a great fit for that job. But obviously, networking is a really important thing. The responsibility is still on you to interview well, because some of you might be like, well, Mr. Meister, 60 to 80% of all jobs are a result of networking. Why did we spend 3 or 4 weeks on interviewing? Interviewing is still important. It's a very critical skill. Networking is what kind of gets you that introduction. So I want you to understand the importance of networking. All right. So for example, networking is a good way to find a job, and there's a variety of reasons. I'm going to give you the 3 main reasons that networking is really helpful. The first thing is, if you reach out to someone that you know that might have a job, people want to work with people that they already know. And I'll go one step further and like. And so if I'm looking to hire an assistant in my media department, I could hire a stranger, but if someone equally qualified is someone that I know and like, why wouldn't I want to hire them? All right. So, I mean, networking it's not a bad thing. Networking is a very common thing. And what networking does is taking away the well, I don't know who this person really is. They interviewed really well, but do I really know them? I don't know. There's been countless teachers, and when I was in the business world, countless people that would be hired that interviewed really well, but when it came to them conducting and doing their job, they were they were good salesmen because they did a great job of selling themselves, but they didn't know how to do much else. So networking is one way people get the ability to hire someone that they know already and like. All right. The other reason managers like to use networking when they're looking to fill in a job is when you just post a job out there and say, hey, social studies teacher, you're going to get 1 million people who are looking for a social studies teaching job, and they're all going to apply. And then you got to go through this thick stack of papers like, oh, I'm sure there's some good people in here, but there's a lot of people in here. And now I got to figure out who's good and who's bad. And it's a lot of work. Sometimes when you work through networking, it is much easier because you don't have to go through all of that job listing stuff. And then finally, the job you want might not even necessarily be advertised at all. And you're scrambling, hopefully you're scrambling and writing this down. But what does that really mean? Anyone want to take a guess at what this really means? No, I'm not going to say anyone. I'm going to pick on someone we haven't heard from yet. And we will pick on Kevin. Thanks, Kevin.
Are you asking me what I think the sentence means?
Yes, the job you want might not even be advertised at all. What does that mean?
Maybe when you're like, you see the business, there might not just be a now hiring sign on the window.
Yeah, in its very simplistic form, what Kevin is saying is true. It might not even be advertised anywhere, but in many situations, often the job doesn't even exist. You, through networking, by talking with people, begin to start selling yourself. And you hear someone say, oh man, this business is so hard to run. This ordering is so hard. Your networking says, you know what? I used to do ordering for another company similar to this one. Maybe I could help you out. And the person didn't even realize the need. The person hiring didn't even realize that they, could maybe use some expertise outside of what they were thinking. And you just kind of sold yourself into a job. And so networking is huge. For a while, I worked at Motorola before I was a teacher, and 9 times out of 10, they would always have postings of jobs. And, when I was first hired, it's like, okay, I'd really like to be in the cellular group. I'd really like to be doing this. So you'd go to a posting board and you would look at the posting, and then you would call over there and you would say, hey, tell me a little bit about this job. I'm very interested in, like, oh, we kind of already have it filled. And it happens a lot of times because often in business, yes, they might legally have to post a job, but the reality is they might already have someone in mind for that job. And I'm not trying to discourage you from going through want ads, and I'm not trying to discourage you when you, after 4 years of college, are looking for work. But suddenly you're going to realize that, networking is a huge way to really understand if there's a job there at all. Meaning, like in education, I know jobs are posted, on websites, and jobs are posted at the regional office, across the whole county. But the reality is, if Mundelein High School is posting a social studies job, they might already have 2 or 3 people in mind. And by the time I see it and I pick it up and I contact, I might be the 10th person in line for that job. And so this is why networking becomes so critical, especially, in certain industries. And so you need that relationship. So who is in your network? All right. And you know what? I probably should, before I say who is in your network, I guess we'll do this and then we'll define networking a little bit more. So who are people that might be in your network? Well, let's start off with family. Let's say you are looking for a job in education. Go through your family and ask family members, hey, my daughter right now is graduating college in 4 weeks. She wants to be a Spanish and ESL teacher. Now, she's sending out resumes to places and cold calling schools and saying, hey, I think I'm really good. Would you hire me? But we've also encouraged her and say, hey, you have an aunt who teaches ESL at Vernon Hills High School. Give her a call. I certainly have reached out to people here at the high school and made them aware that, hey, my daughter is I think very qualified, based upon, some needs that we might have at the school here. Would you be interested? And so you use your family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever, and you reach out to them and say, hey, could you help me with maybe finding a job? Do you know about a particular job? And right now I'm being very one-sided about networking, which I'm a little nervous to do, but for now, just go with me on this. All right. Obviously, you're going to reach out to your friends. Your parents might have friends. You might have friends. Your friends' parents might be able to help you. You want a job in accounting, and it just so happens that one of your best friends, dad, works at an accounting firm auditing. Reach out to them, talk to them. These are people that you should definitely take advantage of. And again, I mean that in a nice way. In addition to that, your friends, 40 years from now, you are going to graduate college and probably have some friendships that you don't have today. Don't just graduate and say, see you later, and leave those people. Those people are in your network. They know something about you, and reach out to them. I mean, maybe the two of you go into business together. Maybe one of your friends is able to help you in an industry that you're looking at. Church is another huge thing. And when I say church, I mean, there's all kinds of social gatherings. It doesn't have to just be church, but church, when I think of church, I think of many different people from many different industries and many different interests, all coming together for an hour or two and worshiping and then going on. I met a cameraman from NBC from church. He was at church. He had an NBC jacket on. And I said, hey, do you work with NBC, or is this just some kind of coat you got somewhere? He's like, oh, no, I'm a camera person. And we struck up a friendship there. And then I ended up taking kids on field trips to NBC, all just because of reaching out and building my network a little bit bigger. All right. People you work with, coworkers. Now, right now, you might be looking at the person next to you at McDonald's and saying, how in the world would they ever be able to help me? You'd be surprised. But obviously, as you get further into your career field, whether you want to work in teaching or whether you want to work in business or whatever, as you get into more specialized jobs, the people beside you might have some insight as well. And they might, know people in certain jobs that they're not at all interested in, but could certainly help you with. Former coworkers is another huge thing. I have people I stay in touch with. Before I came to Mundelein High School, I worked at Buffalo Grove High School, and I stay in touch with certain people there, not in the hopes of like, oh, can you give me a job? Can I come back there and work? That's not what my goal is, but they're in my network. These are people I stay in touch with. And again, we'll get into what networking is and how that can help people out. Neighbors is another huge one. The people who live to the left of you and to the right of you and behind you, they all have jobs, and surprise, surprise, some of them might be working in fields that you are equally interested in. You would be stupid not to introduce yourself, let them know that, hey, you know what? I hear you work in research and development, and actually that's what I'm pursuing in college. Can you tell me a little bit more about your career, your job, what you're doing? So don't overlook your neighbors. Former classmates, even the people in class with you right now in your senior class at Mundelein High School, in 4 years, you may hear that they are working at such and such a company, the exact same company that you would like to get into. Well, keep those relationships up. Definitely professors, when you get to college, are really going to be able to help you. Even at the high school level, I mean, there are certain people as your high school teacher, could put you in touch with, but your college professors, especially once you start getting into an area of specialty, they have an inside track on, jobs, and they have contacts and people they know. And if they know and like you, they probably won't be afraid to go out on a limb for you as well. I wrote down your dentist. You might be like, seriously, my dentist? Why would my dentist be able to help me find a job in business? All right. You don't know who your dentist knows. Matter of fact, your dentist probably knows a lot of people in business. And so I use the word dentist here. It can be any vocation. But what I really want you to understand is if you strike up a really good relationship with your dentist, and I don't mean like, you're spending Christmas together, but you're pleasant and you're kind and you laugh and you joke. That person can later come out. And matter of fact, here, I'm going to deviate for 1 second, personal story. All right. My dentist that I see many years ago, he had music on in the background, and it was a song from an obscure 80s movie. And he's like, oh, they don't make movies like this anymore. And I think it was The Crying Game was the movie, and maybe never even heard of it. And I says, oh yeah. He's like, it has a good soundtrack though. And so we talked a little bit about the movie. I was pleasant. I responded, what's this and that. Well, I left, the dentist, and then a week later, I happened to be at Goodwill for something, and I saw The Crying Game on VHS. So I sent it to him. This was right around Christmas time. And ever since then, this is probably 10 years ago, but everyone in that dentist's office knows who I am. Oh, you're the guy who bought him the movie. We thought that was hilarious. All right. And I mean, every time he sees me, there's a connection there. And what I'm getting at is a year or so ago, I had a student who wanted to go into orthodontics and dentistry. And I could just call this guy up and say, hey, I work at the high school. Would you be willing to help me? Oh, yeah, send your kid over. I'd be happy to answer any questions or do whatever I can to help. And this is someone that can help me. Now, I did not send him this movie thinking, oh, let's see what I can get out of him. I was just being friendly and made a connection with someone and was building my network a little bit better. All right. And again, don't miss those opportunities, because you might be sitting in the dentist chair in 3 or 4 years saying, yeah, I'm about to graduate college in business. I'm not really sure where I'm going to get a job. I'm kind of nervous. I'm really excited about it. Well, if your dentist knows you and it's like, oh, you seem like a really great guy. You've been in here for years. There was a guy in my office just a few days ago who has his own small tax accounting firm, and he's looking to hire someone. Maybe you want me to give you his number? Don't overlook these opportunities. All right. This is kind of like, if you've ever heard the expression, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. He's an actor from the 80s and 90s. I know he's still an actor, but I don't know how popular he is with your generation. But people always said, you could connect to Kevin Bacon in 6 people or less. And it's so very true. This is what networking is all about. I have one other example, and this would be the guy or girl standing in line at Walmart. Again, I'm picking something obscure, like this is not an exhaustive list, but here's my point. You're standing in line at Walmart. You're having a conversation with your mom, your brother, your sister, your best friend about how you're looking for work. And, you're like, I've worked really hard all these years. I'd really want a job that really, I think. You don't know who's standing right behind you. That could be the person with your dream job right behind you. And maybe by you talking about it, they're like, hey, wait a sec, you're looking for a job in human resources? I happen to work at Medline, and I know we're looking for a new human resources person that wants to do exactly what you're talking about. Here's my card. Why don't you give me a call Monday morning and we'll go from there? It happens all of the time. You might be like, no, that just happens in the movies, Mr. Meister. No, what I'm saying is it happens all of the time. People generally, whether you believe it or not, are kind and nice. I've been in line at Home Depot where, I'm asking the Home Depot person, hey, I want to build this playhouse in the backyard for my girls. How far down do I need to dig the posts? What do I need to do? The Home Depot guy is kind of giving me some answers. A guy standing right next to me who was looking at some stuff after the Home Depot guy left was like, hey, sounds like you want to build a shed. I've done this before. Where do you live? And it's like, well, I live right here in Monterey. I tell you what, let's go to your house right now. I'll show you how to do that. Now, this doesn't happen every day, but what I'm saying is there are people like that in the world that if you show that you're a kind person, you show that you are a gentle person, that you're a caring person, they're going to want to give back and help you. And you don't know who those people are. Yeah, the guy behind you at Walmart might be a complete jerk. And like, come on, let's go. Let's hurry up. I want to get out of here. But there might also be one of these compassionate people that if they hear something, they're like, hey, I want to help you. I could help you. And I think I could. Now, what I'm not saying is when you're standing in line at Walmart, you like, all right, so my name's Bob and I'm looking for a job in business. Anyone can help me? It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just go be yourself, go about your normal business. And if you're a likable person, people will notice that and people will want to help you out. Pretty much what I'm saying is who is in your network? Here's the bottom line. Anyone and everyone can be in your network and should be in your network. The bigger your network is, the better of a person you are going to become. And as I'm teaching this, I'm realizing I wish I switched these slides around when I put this together this morning. But maybe the first thing we should have done is really define what networking is. I had you guys define it. I never really told you what I would define networking is. And yes, networking is a way to connect with other people in hopes of getting a job. but it is so much more than that. And everything I've talked about so far has been in the context of getting a job, but I want you to keep it all in perspective. Networking is about sharing and not taking. Write that down because I don't want you to miss this. Networking is about sharing and not just taking. A lot of the examples, and this is why I stopped myself short earlier, the last 10 minutes, is I made it sound like networking, the purpose of networking is for you to get something and ultimately get a job. And that's not what networking is. It is about sharing your ideas, sharing your perspectives of, maybe how your business works and things that you could do, how you can become a better person professionally, and sharing that with others. Now, a byproduct or side effect of networking is often getting something in return. I mean, when you're kind to someone else, they're going to be kind back to you. And that's really what networking is about. Now, again, let me define networking a little bit further, give you an example of networking. I am a media teacher at Mundelein High School. I am the only media teacher at Mundelein High School. And maybe you've heard teachers talk about PLCs, professional learning communities. That's just a buzzword, but it's the bottom line is similar teachers, all the English 3 teachers get together and they talk about their curriculum. Hey, what can we do to get kids to understand this concept better? All of the algebra teachers get together, maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, and they talk about, hey, we're really seeing kids struggling with this concept. Any suggestions on how to get better? And all these people work together. They're networking together and saying, here's what I do. Hey, that's a great idea. I want to pull some of what you're doing into my classroom. That's a great idea. And that goes back and forth. They're sharing ideas. Well, as a media teacher, I have no one to meet with. It's so sad, all right? But it's okay because I belong to an organization called the Midwest Media Educators Association. And basically 4 times a year, I meet with other teachers just like me who teach television and media and editing and TV studio stuff. And we share, how do you teach this? How do you motivate students to go out and film? How do you get them to conduct an interview that is useful? And as one person, I have some ideas, but when I love going to these meetings because I'm a sponge. I learn so much. And yes, there's free food and it's a day off of teaching. But I'll be honest, when I come back from these, I usually have pages of notes that I've listened. Oh, I love what they're doing at, Highland Park High School. This is a really cool way to teach interviewing. And this is, and I just have notes and notes as I listen to other people talk. And they don't just talk about what they're teaching. They talk about the equipment they're buying. Hey, has anyone heard about this new piece of equipment? It's relatively cheap. It allows streaming to happen really easy. And I come back with so much. And I've learned that, when I go to these things, sometimes one of those 4 sessions are always, they call it, what is it? Share. I don't remember. There's some goofy buzzword for it, but everyone brings something to share. It could be an idea how to teach. It could be an idea of a program they're doing and an assignment that they're giving, or certainly a piece of equipment that they're using. And I mean, as we go around the room and 40 or 50 different people talk from all around the Chicagoland area and southern Wisconsin and Indiana, I learned so much because the way we do it at Mundelein High School isn't necessarily the best way. It's just one way. But I get to pick and choose of like, oh, I really like what they're doing at this school. Glenbrook South has a really great way of doing this or that. That's what networking is. I'm building these relationships with these people. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Well, let's just say my job shriveled up here. And after being part of this organization at MMEA for the last 15 years of giving and sharing ideas and offering advice and helping other schools, if I reached out and said, hey, you know what, guys, the program at our school is kind of, the funding has disappeared and they want to go a different direction. Any advice you could give me? People would, be like, oh, Meister doesn't have a job. Let's see if we can help this guy out. And they're going to look around. They're going to talk to people that they know. Hey, I know at such and such a school, they're looking to build a program. I don't know this stuff. And this is where a network comes into play. Again, if I've invested in the network, if I've been sharing all along and not just being a taker, people are willing to help. All right. So questions about that? I've talked a long time. Questions before I go forward? No questions? Oh, Elizabeth knows it all, she says. All right. Well, here's some tips for networking, how to network well. Because essentially what networking is reaching out to people that are like yourself, that you're hoping maybe can help you, but also you want to invest in as well. All right. First thing I would say is be authentic. All right. Don't be fake. People can see right through when you're trying to be fake. Like, oh, wow. Kevin, I really love your hair. That's really great. Yeah, you're a really great guy. Oh, you are so good at baseball. I love watching you play baseball. After a while, Kevin's going to be like, what does this guy want? He wants something. No one sucks up to me that much. All right. Be authentic. Think of your friends. You know who is real and who is fake. You know who wants something from you and who is genuinely like, hey, you know what? I was really impressed the way you did that. And then you'll leave it at that. It's not like you're asking for something. You just are genuinely nice. Now, when you only call someone once a year and out of the blue, you're like, hey, I read about this. You're really a great person. Can you help me? Well, we all see that coming. So be authentic. And what that basically means is if you want to share with others, share with them all the time, not just when you need something. And that's authentic. In addition to authentic is mean what you say. Don't, try and give someone, like, oh, you're so great. You're so wonderful. All right. People see through those compliments. All right. When people are being sincere with you and when they're really impressed by you and when they're just trying to say something polite or because they want something from you. So definitely be authentic. All right. The other thing I would say is be considerate. You got to listen to them. Listen to what they have to say. And, I say this to my children from time to time. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. All right. And that is so you learn to listen to others. Listen to them first. Sometimes we as people, as human beings, we are so worried. We're thinking about who? We're thinking about ourselves. And we're just thinking about what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? And in this day and age, it seems to only spiral more out of control, that the only reason some people are friends with other people is what can you do for me? How can you advance my career? What can you give me? What can you get me? And I guess what I would say is if you truly want to build a real, authentic network, you got to be considerate and listen to the needs of others, not approach that relationship as what can you do for me, but what can I do for you? And the only way you can figure out what you can do for someone else is by listening. Hey, how are things going at your company? Hey, I read that, at Motorola, they're doing a lot of cuts. How's that working out with you? Do you feel safe or do you feel like your job's always on the line? And listen to what they say. And, if they say, oh, matter of fact, this leads to my next one. Whoops. The next thing I would say is they might say, yeah, it's really hard. Don't be afraid to jump in and say, hey, I can maybe help you with that. Hey, this is really a stressful time, I could imagine. Or, I have a resource that I think would be really helpful to you. And it goes back to what I'm saying at the top of the screen here. When you approach this relationship in your network as wanting to share something, give something to them, and not just like, what can I get? What can I get? Gimme, gimme, gimme. People are going to recognize that. And so don't be afraid to help. And it might be something as stupid as, you're maintaining a relationship with someone over the years. And they're like, oh, I'm just so stressed. This is a really hard time. My water main blew up in the house and I got water all over the floor. Okay, well then be a good neighbor. Go over there and say, hey, can I help you? I'm free this morning. I'll be happy to help you. Not over there like, okay, I'm going to help you, but give me a job. I'm going to help you, but say this, do this for me. I have some family members that are like that they will help me out if they get something in return. Or if I've done something nice for them, they've gone as far as saying, well, you help me with this. So yeah, I can come help you out. And it just like negates everything I feel for them because I feel like, really, is that, you carry around these scales to make sure that we're always even. If I have to help you 10 times and you help me only once, that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's called being a good human being. But if you're one of these people like, well, I already helped you once, until you help me, I'm not helping you anymore. That's not a great friendship. And again, you have friends that will go out of their way for you over and over and over again. And then you have some friends that are like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll just say this. With my wife being sick, she's been sick for 2.5 years. The first 2-3 months, people were coming out of the woodwork to be kind to us and make meals for us and help us and this and that. And I just did an interview with a newspaper reporter a few days ago. And he says, is there anything else you'd like to add? And I just said, it's been amazing that after 2.5 years, there are still people coming out and doing all kinds of amazing things to help our family out. And I said, it's, very real. It gives me a sense of community and it means a lot to me. And the reason I tell you all this is his response was, he says, well, it sounds like you've invested in a lot of people over the years and now it's just all coming back to you. And 10 years ago, as I was building relationships with people, I wasn't thinking, oh, my wife's going to get really sick. I need you to pay me back sometime down the road. I was just investing in other people. And sooner or later, when you invest in other people, that investment will come back to you. So I say that to all of you, don't be afraid to help someone out. You might be saying, oh, what can you do for me to get a job? But just be a good human being. And as you're talking with them and they're sharing a need and you're listening with your ears, and you're not talking, you're listening, jump in and say, hey, I can help you out with that. I can come over for a morning and help you out, whether it's professionally or something going on at your house. And every relationship's a little bit different, so I can't tell you what that looks like, but don't be afraid to jump in and do that. Now, when it does get to a point where you're, thinking, hey, I could really use something, like, let's just say you are out of work and you are calling someone that you've talked to regularly over the years. And now, let's just say I lost my job at Mundaline. I'm not going to call up my media friends and just say, hey, I lost my job. Someone get me a job. All right. What I might do is I might ask them for advice and say, hey, guys, I've been teaching at Mundaline for 18 years and suddenly I find myself out of work. The landscape for hiring has changed a lot over the years. Does anyone have any advice for me? I'm not asking anyone for a job, but by the way I'm asking is just saying, can you give me some advice? People want to help, especially if you've already helped them. And so if you've already helped someone in the past and you're just asking for advice, they'll be like, oh, you've fallen on some hard times. Let me help you out. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about people helping out our family, right now, these last few years, is because I've invested in them in the past, they're not afraid to say, what can I do for you? And I say, oh, no, I'm fine. No. What can I do? I've had people that I say no to, and they still bring me food. They show up at my door and they come with groceries and stuff, and it's amazing. And it's a blessing, and it, will bring me to tears when they're gone. Because I think, wow, here are people that just care enough that they don't take no for an answer. All that to say, when you call up someone that you've invested in and just say, hey, I need some advice. Like, I'm trying to find a job and I'm just striking out everywhere. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Now, they might give you advice, but if they can help you, I promise you, they're going to be like, you know what? I know you're not asking me for a job right now, but I do know of an opportunity in our company that, let me put you in touch with a certain person I know, and let's see if something happens. And you go from there. That's networking. The other thing I would say, tips for networking and building your network, is use your online resources. Now, one of the biggest crimes that I feel like I have not done well with this Zoom in this class is we haven't talked about LinkedIn at all. But LinkedIn is huge. It is an online resource where you link in and build your online network with other people. And if we had more time, this is one of the things that got lost because of COVID and all of that. But LinkedIn is something I would recommend all of you even set up a basic LinkedIn account and you keep building it, because this is a way to stay in touch with what's going on in the industry, with people. I know Facebook isn't as popular with you guys now. There's other ways, to do that, but it's kind of like a Facebook professionally. And it's a really interesting way to be like, oh, so-and-so is a manager at such and such a company. I didn't know that. And if you're linked in with them and you know them, you can reach out to them. Now, I wouldn't call them and say, hey, sorry, I have hiccups. I read online that you are the manager of a company. I'm looking for a job. Don't do that. But you could certainly connect with them, strike up a conversation with them, catch up as old friends would normally do, And sooner or later, they'll probably be polite and ask you and say, hey, so what are you doing right now? Oh, actually, I'm kind of in between jobs right now. My last company was downsizing and I kind of got, squeezed out. And at that point, you never ask them for a job. If they have the opportunity, may say, hey, you know what? Let me do some checking for you. I might be able to help you out. All of this is, through places like Indeed or LinkedIn is a huge one. But utilize these online resources. They're nationwide. And then finally, I would say, don't be a hit and run networker. And what I mean by hit and run is you crawl out of the woodwork whenever you need something. I'm bringing this full circle back to the line up there. You need to maintain these relationships and not just when you need something, go back to that relationship. I mean, we've seen the, plot in movies, about the prodigal son, who gets in a fight with his father and leaves and says, screw you, I'm getting out of here. And then they go away. And then suddenly when they lose all their money and they realize that their life is over and they've made a mess of their life, they come crawling back to dad. All right. And be that person that maintains the relationship all the time and never says, screw you to someone. Now, you're probably smart enough not to do that, but you don't want to be the kind of person that only reaches out to your network when you need something. So you might be saying, well, Mr. Meister, what does that look like? Well, when I read that one of my counterparts has done something great at a school, or they've won an award that maybe I was in a contest as well, one of our students were in a contest against their school and they won, I reach out to them and say, hey, great job. I love that story that your kids did. That opening sequence was amazing. Great job. And how do you think that makes them feel? Like, wow, that Mr. Meister guy at Mundelein, his kids didn't win, but he's a really great, nice teacher. He recognizes excellence. I like that guy. All right. Yes, I'm embellishing a little bit, but my point is I reach out to people and build my network even when I don't need anything. Now, that doesn't mean like on my to-do list every day, like, okay, I got to call someone. But truth be told, I look for opportunities to tell people, great job. Or I read about this article, or I heard that you're trying to build a studio and I ran across this article about how to build a studio from scratch with a low budget. I thought I would share it with you. It's no skin off my nose. It doesn't cost me anything except the 2 minutes to reach out to them and say, hey, here's an article I found. I thought of you. Imagine being on the other end of that, where you get that article and be like, wow, he was thinking of me. I'm touched. All right. Again, I'm embellishing a little bit, but again, they're going to have nothing but good thoughts about you. So maintaining or having a big network means that, this is something that is ongoing. Don't just run into your network when you need something. All right. So let me summarize 2 things here. All right. Number 1, networking is not using people to get what you want. I know if you've been listening with a half an ear, if you've been, kind of like, well, Mr. Meister, what are you really saying? It sounds like you're just talking about getting jobs. Yes. I mean, that's ultimately where we're going with this, but I want to be very clear. Networking is not using people to get what you want. Let me take it a step further and say networking is building real relationships with people. And what I mean by all of this is let me just summarize it by maybe saying it this way here. Hold on a second. All right. Networking is definitely more than a lesson of, where we're just talking about business. What I'm really trying to tell you guys is how to be a kind human being. You all are going to have to decide for yourself what kind of person you are. You got to figure this out. Am I going to be a taker or a sharer? And what I'm really talking about today is not just networking, but it's what kind of person professionally are you going to be? You have to decide at some point. Are you a user or are you a taker? Real, true friendships require a little bit of an investment. And I mean that sarcastically. A true relationship, a good friendship, with your friends through 4 years of high school, through 4 years of college. I'll even go as far as say good marital advice is a good relationship, a good marriage is an investment in your spouse. Don't go into your marriage, here you're getting marriage advice now, but don't go into your marriage saying, well, it's 50-50. I give 50 and they give 50, and then it's fair. Go into that marriage and give 100%. Give everything you got to your spouse without expecting anything in return. Imagine for a second if you had a friend or a spouse who was unconditionally always giving to you. Would you just be like, yep, give me more. I want more. I want more. Give me more. I want more. You would be so grateful. You would feel blessed and you would want to give back. And so my marriage advice to all of you, now we're talking about marriage, is give 100% to your spouse. And you know what? You're going to get 100% back. You're not going to get someone who's, like one of my family members who's always carrying scales around. You're going to get 100% back. So as I said, real true friendships require definitely an investment. That investment will usually reciprocate back, as I just said. People can tell when they're being used. People can tell when you're trying to get something out of them. And people can also tell when they're cared about. Think of teachers that you've really liked over the years that you knew cared about you. Did they ever come out and say, you know what? I care about you. Good teachers, I won't say good teachers, teachers that you feel that feeling about probably never told you that. You just sensed it. I sense that they truly care about me. It's not just their job. They're not just trying to be nice because they have to, or they're not trying to motivate me to turn in my late work. They really care about whether I pass or fail this class. They don't want to see me fail. And you can tell that. And relationships in your network are the same way. So I'm not asking you to be good at fooling them. I'm not asking you to say, okay, if you want a good network, you got to be really good. And here's how you get around, the nice stuff to get what you want. I'm not asking you to get good at fooling them. What I'm asking you to decide is to be a real person, an authentic person, and figure that out. And for some of you, this might be like a real paradigm shift. For the last 4 years of high school, for the last 18 years of your life, you've just been always taking. And mom, dad will give you stuff, friends give you stuff. And now you need to start, you're going to move out of your house, most of you, and go away to college. And you have to start figuring out what kind of person are you. And you don't want to be a taker. You don't want people to look at you like, oh my gosh, they always want something from me. Whether it's the food from my refrigerator, whether it's they want a ride in my car, or they want, something professionally from me. It happens for the rest of your life. And in college, it's going to be those simple things like they want to borrow $10 from you. But that still happens in the professional world where people are like, oh my gosh, why is this guy calling me? I haven't heard from him in a year and a half. And suddenly he's calling me out of the blue. It's not just to say happy birthday. You got to work at these relationships. Those of you in sales, I know there's a couple of you that want to work in business and in sales. And you talk to any good salesman, they'll be like, you know what? A good salesman doesn't just call when they want to sell something. They call all the time. A good salesman is a good friend. A good salesman, truthfully, is a good human being. And that's what networking is. Networking is about being a good human being to others. And I know there are business schools that would probably argue with me and say, no, there's better ways to network. There's better ways to reach your goals. I'm telling you the path after I'm 53 years old, the path that I've learned is the best way to reach your goals is by giving to others, not trying to strategize and strategically get what you want. How do I manipulate this person like a slimy salesman to get what I want, to get them to buy this product? Just be genuine, be authentic. And that's how you build a good network. Questions about networking? Anyone disagree with anything I said? Mr. Meister, your marital advice was horrible. Anything? No? All right, then on a piece of paper, any piece of paper, write down 2 things that you learned about networking. 2 things, grab a piece of paper. You got to write it down, not say, oh, I'm just going to think about it. It can be right in your notes. Matter of fact, you should be taking notes. So write right in the bottom of your notes, just draw a line and write 2 things I learned about networking. Write it down. Do that now. I'll give you a minute. All right, you all know what's coming up next, right? Actually, I don't need. Elizabeth, share one of those things on your list.
I said that people want to conduct business with people they know and like.
People want to connect with hire people that they know and like. Good. Jasmine, one of the things on your list.
That you have to be authentic because people can tell when you're like just doing it to get something out of it.
Yeah, can you tell when someone's being genuine or fake with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you all can. Good. All right. Who is left out there? Alex.
I said be nice to everyone because you never know who could help get you a job.
Yes, be nice to everyone. And it's so easy when you're standing in line at Walmart to be like, I'll never see them again. But you'd be surprised at how many jobs are found that way. Think back to that stat I gave you near the beginning. 60 to 80% of most jobs begin as a result of networking or end as a result of networking. Good. Who haven't I heard from out there? Is there anyone else I haven't heard from yet? Is that everyone? Who's in the corner over there? Oh, Evelyn hiding in Lauren's spot.
Yes, I was hiding. I said that you have to casually bring up asking or not ask for advice to, oh, sorry. Don't ask for a job, ask for advice, like casually bring it up.
Yes, ask for advice. Don't ever directly say I need a job. And when you reach out to this person, listen. Don't, hey, why are you calling me? Well, I'm looking for a job. Let them talk first. Build that relationship before you ask them for something. Good. All right. Steven, something you learned.
Sometimes you can remind an employer of a job that isn't advertised.
Yes. And can you explain what that means a little bit further?
Like they'll be thinking, oh, I need a person for this. I haven't made a advertisement, and then you come across them and that they remind that of themselves.
Yes. Yes. Often the job that maybe you might end up getting is not a job that was ever even dreamed up. Excellent example of that. When I was hired at Mundelein High School in fall of 2003, there was no media program. There was no thought of even having a media program at Mundelein High School. I had done media for 10 years at Buffalo Grove prior to that. And when I came here and I saw that, wow, you don't have any kind of program here, I met with the principal. I showed him productions that we had done at the school. I said, here's what we can do for the school. Here's how we can promote the school. And guess what? A year later, I was a media teacher. I created that position that I was looking to do. I mean, I enjoyed being a business teacher. That's why I was hired. But I came to the administration and said, look at what I can do. And they said, yeah, we would love to have that here. You can do that. Let's do this. Give this guy some money, give him some kids. Let's see what happens. Thankfully, 18 years later, I'm still here. It wasn't a crash and burn thing. But my point is, what Stephen is saying is sometimes that network relationship, you begin to say, like, as I'm listening to you talk, it sounds like you have a real need in this area. Actually, I could help you out with that. I don't know if you ever considered hiring someone to do that, but even if it's 20 hours a week, you get your foot in the door and suddenly, next thing you know, you're full time. I was hired at Mundelein High School as a part-time business teacher. And it turned into this full-time thing where I'm doing media and everything that I love. Again, sometimes you got to sell and advocate for yourself, but take your time doing that. Good. Who haven't we heard from yet? Eva, something you learned.
You kind of stole mine. I said 60 to 80% of jobs are found that way.
Okay. And so I'm just going to make the connection for you. Networking is so important. I think what Eva's not saying, what she wrote down and just didn't add this piece, is networking is huge. And this is why I tell my daughter now that she's just about, is about to graduate college, is if you just think you're going to send your resume to all these schools, you got to do more than that. You got to reach out to the people that you know and see if they can help you. Because they might not be able to help you, but they know, like if someone reached out to me and said, hey, do you know of any teaching jobs? I might be like, you know what? I don't. Actually, I do know of one right now in media, but I could certainly go into my MMEA group and send out a quick email and say, hey, I have a really qualified person I think would be great as a teacher, young and exciting and blah, blah, blah. Does anyone know about anything? And now suddenly that one conversation with me is turning into, I'm going to my network of 40 or 50 people and I'm getting feedback back. So yes, don't underestimate the importance of networking. That stat, 60 to 80% is huge. And again, it doesn't mean you're going to get the job because you know someone, but it gets you at the top. You know, I think we talked about this early on in the class. It gets your name on top. Maybe we didn't. Maybe that's coming next week. But it gets your name on top as they're like, yeah, oh yeah, that guy, Mr. Meister. You know, and then someone else tries to get in. But nope, you get right back on there. Oh yeah, that guy, Mr. Meister. And you want to, you know, have that with your network. All right, Angel, let's put you out of your misery.
I said that it's a good way to build real relationships.
Yes, you know, the one thing that I want to stress, that I know I said this, but maybe you guys didn't hear this because you were still hearing networking helps get you a job. Networking, and I said this, but let me reemphasize this, makes me a better person. I am a better teacher because of my network. If I thought I was the end all and the best media teacher and all my ideas were the best, I wouldn't have a good program. The program at Mundelein High School, I can pick out assignments and equipment, and I can point and say, that is a result of what I learned from, you know, the guy at Glenbrook North. This assignment is from Neuqua Valley. This particular assignment is from Elmhurst. This is from Bob Chambers. He had this idea to, you know, just, you know, do B-roll this way. There are so many things in my program that were never my idea. And that's all a result of network. I am a better teacher than I would be if I wasn't a part of that network. And you need to see the value. If you want to be a better accountant, a better teacher, a better nurse, a better whatever it is you want to do, have a network of people that you can lean on. All right. So your next assignment this week, I'm going to share my screen. If you go into Canvas, you'll find a networking module, and in that module is this prompt. This is the actual, actually, this is not the assignment. This is, hang on a sec. This is the assignment. And I want to click on this. I think this is what nope, that's not what I want to click on. Hang on. Let me go back up here. This is the assignment. And nope, hold on. It's not opening my PDF here. Oh, here it goes. All right. So it's a little bit small, but you get the idea. So as it says here, networking is about reaching out to people that you barely know. But the reality is, as we've learned, is if you want to grow as a professional and you want to, you know, maybe get a job down the road, networking is a huge way to do that. So the first thing I want you to do, the preparation, it's been a while since we've done one of these, as I know we've been in interviewing so long, is prior to today, I just want you to answer this question. What did networking mean to you? Now, honestly, guys, you can write just about anything here. Please don't be like, oh, I want to make Mr. Meister think I'm super smart and I already knew what networking is. Just tell me what you thought networking meant to you. Then, because that's all I'm asking you, you don't have to be like, oh, well, Meister taught us and I want you to see how brilliant I am. I just want to see you defend your answer. What role does networking play in looking for and obtaining a job? Obviously, I think we've made that clear today. And when do you think the importance of networking ends? I haven't said that, but I think you can draw your own conclusions. Again, make sure you defend each of your positions. Then I want you to call up when you have your Zoom call this week, you know, obviously email them and say, hey, we're going to be talking about networking. We're thankfully done with interviews. And you can start with the 3 questions that I just asked you. You can ask them, hey, when you were my age, what did you think networking was? Hey, when you were my age, you know, or fast forward 3 or 4 years, what role did networking play for you? And then finally ask them when they think networking is. Now, I'm not saying ask these 3 questions. I'm saying start with these 3 questions. Hopefully you have a much better, more interesting conversation that will mushroom into a whole lot more, but that's only if you allow yourself to do that and don't just be like, well, I'm going to ask these 3 questions, then hang up, then I'm done for the week. Yay, I don't have to do any more work. You're going to miss out on a great conversation if that's your attitude. So make sure you really go deeper, ask follow-up questions, ask them who's in their network. You know, ask them, you know, hey, who are the 5 people in your network that you think have shaped the way you do business the most? They're like, really? I mean, you won't know any of them, but when they give you a name, say why, what did they do? And listen to their stories And I think you're going to understand what I'm saying today a whole lot more. Because I bet you every one of your mentors has professional people in their network that has shaped who they are as a business person, or as, you know, a nurse, or, you know, whatever it is, a physical therapist, that there are elements of their physical therapy in what they do. I can trace parts of my teaching, my attitude, my class back to when I was observing teachers. I remember I observed one teacher at Stevenson High School that I thought was a psycho, but there are elements that I bring in that he did in his classroom that I still do in my classroom. And I really can't do it because, you know, we're on Zoom, and you're probably like, I want to see Psycho Meister. You lose. That's the problems of COVID. All right. But anyways, ask them, you know, hey, how have you been shaped by people in your network? And then finally, obviously, I want you to summarize and answer some questions. As usual, there is something in there as well. I think if you ask good questions and you're not quick to end this call, this week for many students historically in the past has been a real eye-opening week, because they don't realize the relevance of networking. Sure, I'm not asking you to talk to your parents about networking, but ask your parents about networking. See what they have to say. I think you'll realize that there's a whole lot more to finding a job than looking through a want ads or going to a computer, you know, and saying, hey, help me find a job. And again, I'm not trying to minimize the importance of, you know, all that stuff that we've done prior to this, because you got to be able to do those things, but you also got to be able to do this within the framework of a network. All right. Any questions for me?